The musical notes are A, H, C, D, E, F, G.
What? Warum?
Yeah, that's only in German, because in English it's ABC, obviously. How does that H that is disturbing someone come into German music theory? Well, one of the theories it came in is the dumb monk theory.
Wer sich das ausgedacht hat. Oh, ich könnte ihn.
The dumb monk is a monk that wrote a B, but not good enough. It seemed to be an H. And another dumb monk copied that H. And so did all the other dumb monks following to those two. And that's the reason why there is an H in music in German.
Absoluter Bullshit ist das. Wer sich das ausgedacht hat. Oh, ich könnte ihn.
Well, how not to agree if it was a dumb monk? The second theory is the stingy printers theory. They don't want to pay too much money to create a special letter that would reproduce this one, which is the natural sign nowadays. So they just took the H and so it remained in there.
Blöden Scheiß.
And the third theory is that this came in because German supremacy went to teach it to all the other countries, as Germans had that idea to be supreme to other people. Well, I'm not of that idea anyway, and it's really quite dumb, isn't it? But there still is the question.
Es ist H und B. What? Warum?
Warum is a very good question. We will come to this. How were notes named in history? Let's look on Anicius Manlius Severinus Boethius, which was a philosopher of the antique Rome. He lived between 480 and 526 and was more a philosopher. Music was one of the 7 arts, and so he treated music from that point of view. And he had the nomination of the notes in this way. The notes were A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, L, M, N, O, P. So actually he just followed the alphabet, and when he finished the letters of the alphabet for the notes, he just began with A, B, C, D, E. So there was the note H in the ancient times, around 500 after Christ. But that H was what today is the note A again, because Boethius didn't use the repetition of the same letters for the octaves. That came in later by a monk.
Absoluter Bullshit ist das. Wer sich das ausgedacht hat. Oh, ich könnte ihn.
Wer sich das ausgedacht hat, who invented that? It was not this monk, Guido d'Arezzo. But Guido d'Arezzo invented a very, very important thing, which is the solfege. He actually took the syllables of a psalm that has been sung as a Gregorian chant. And the syllables he took are the one under the notes that formed the hexachord, which is the 6-note scale. That was C, D, E, F, G, and A. Lacking the 7th note, but in the music theory of Guido's time, the C, the 7th grade in the scale, it was not considered. It came in actually and was called C in the Roman languages, because what we had left was Sancte Johanni, S-E. So C came in afterwards when they needed the 7th grade. Guido did this, and he repeated the gamut of notes. The gamut were the 20 or 21 notes in use in his time about the year 1000. And it was called Gamut because there was added a G under the lowest A. So that's not logical, actually, that you mix Greek with Latin letters, isn't it? Anyway, we have the gamma as the lowest note, then A, B, C, D, E, F, G, then A, and now B and B again, because this one is a B. It's a square B, a B quadratum, or B durum. Meanwhile, the other one is the B rotundum, the round B, or B moll, the soft B. So Guido and his time had two different and distinct Bs, the soft one and the hard one. When we now look on a theory book of Adam Gumpelzheimer, which is written in the first edition in 1591, and Gumpelzheimer was a Bavarian German theorist and musician, we see, as the book is written in Latin, exactly what Guido d'Arezzo described. We have here the Gamut, where you can see on this column all the notes, gamma, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and in this line you won't find an H. Even if Gumpelzheimer is the German theorist, he doesn't use the H here. And on the other side you see these organ pipes where there are the solmization syllables of Guido on. These are the hexachords, and if we look closely, we actually find three different hexachords. One was the naturalis, which was do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, with the notes C, D, E, F, G. Actually, it was ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Do went in later because do is more easily to sing than ut, do. Very easy, the thing. So here we have the hexachord naturalis, which is starting on C. The notes are C, D, E, F, G, A. And we have the mi, fa, which indicates the halftone, mi, fa, where E and F are. And that's perfect. There's no B and so no H. The second one is the duralis. And here on the beginning you see the hard or quadratum, the hard B, which will be the German H later. And it's beginning on the note G. And so we have the BC in the middle of mi, fa. And the third one is the hexachord mollaris, the soft one, and here is the soft B, the round B in it. So, what was totally clear to Gumpelzheimer, and what he explained to everyone who read his book, written in Latin, there were two B's, two versions of it. And none of this in his book is named H. So how does this H enter music theory and the note names in German? This has to do with the German organ tablature, which was a very, very intelligent system in writing music. Not only where to put the fingers to on the keyboard, but writing music as it was a score, a partitura. Let's have a look on this. This is the eldest example of a German organ tablature, and it's found in England. It's the Robertsbridge Codex, found in a monastery, so probably it's written by monks. So the dumb monk is British? No, he's not, because in all this system there is no H at all. What is this tablature? We have the melody written in mensural notation, which is what very much alike seems to be the notation of nowadays, and second and sometimes a third voice written in only letters, musical letters. So they were written what keys to press and which notes are intended. The two B's are explained here with the round B and the square B, so the hard B, as we have found it in Guido d'Arezzo. So no H at all. But some 100 years later, and that's what we find today, there must have been other tablatures, but probably they are lost anyway. In 1460, we have the Buxheimer Orgelbuch, which was a manuscript with many, many organ pieces, which works almost in the very same way. The melody is written in mensural notation and all the other voices are written in only letters. And here we find clearly an H and an B distinct. So someone, a monk, I don't know, took the decision to use H as a letter for the higher version of those two B's. Because if you write H in handwriting and you don't have to do that square thing, it's very immediate to write, very immediate to read, and everybody knew what was to do with those two notes. And everybody obviously knew that the H was the higher version of the B, of the two Bs. This is explained in this Buxheimer Orgelbuch in a section where the tablature is explained. And here you see written the names of the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, H, and B. If we look closely, the H and the B are almost the same. The H has a beam going down, just as our heart B sign. I think I have to do it like this. Anyway, our heart B sign has that stem, that beam going down on the right side of the letter. Now, I asked myself, is this actually an H? Or is it a B that has been added with that beam? So I looked in a manuscript that has been found in the library of Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, which is a text written in 1440. And here you see clearly that the H had that aspect. So the name that you see in this square is H. Heinrich de Hassia. And here you see Hassia, this little lowercase h, is really like a B with that beam. Here again, the same name and the same H. And here you see the B. So in a non-musical text, the H and the B are written just in the way that we find them in the German organ tablature. For organists, it was clear what was meant. The H was the higher version of the B. And they knew that the B is the only note to have two versions. All the others were just that. An A was an A. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, with the B in two versions. And again, the organist in a tablature, to read it quickly, or to write it quickly, or to talk about that note quickly, changed the higher version of the heart B to ha. That's quite near. So actually the sign itself could have seemed to be an H actually. That was easy. So it flipped in there and it was caught there and everybody knew what is meant. So what was the problem? In those days there was none. Here, by the way, you see a new German organ tablature. This is the version where the mensural notation is completely eliminated, so the soprano, the first melody as well, is written only in musical letters. Polyphony actually had all the voices equivalent. They were worth all the same, so why write one voice in musical notation as mensural notes and the rest in letters? So everything was written in letters. The advantage of this system was it was really, really practical, because you could write a lot of music in very few space. All the music you see over the yellow line is the same that you see on the staff notation. You see, it's very practical, and everyone who played organ knew this system and used it. Johann Sebastian Bach, this is Dietrich Buxtehude, and it came out of use at the end of the 18th century only. So, how did the H finally enter music theory for all? The very first music theory book for amateurs was written in 1511 by Sebastian Wirdung, who was a monk.
Absoluter Bullshit ist das. Wer sich das ausgedacht hat. Oh, ich könnte ihn.
Well, Sebastian Wirdung is safe. He is a monk, but he did not invent it. He just wrote what actually was the practice in organ playing. And here you see the Gamut, as he explains it to everyone who wanted to play keyboard, lute, or flute instruments in 1511. We have the F, G, A, B, H, C, D, and so on. So it was completely in there. In this book, he explains how the organ tablature works, and so the H is needed as it appears in the organ tablature. Wirdung as well gives us a theory and a possibility to think how the lower B entered to be one of those altered notes, because the racism of keyboard began probably with the lower B, which was put on a black key. And so the B, as this one in German was the only note called B, fell out of the diatonic line of the natural notes of today. And this is the reason why certain people have problems with the German musical alphabet, because the B is not longer a natural note. Under this, you see the normal keyboard with all the names of the notes, and all the time that we touch the B, you see that H. Well, errors in that time were made. Here you see the H on the B clef. Oh, anyway, this book was very, very, very successful in that time because it talked to people that are accultured. They had to read, but they were not professional musicians. And other persons interested in reading this book, who did not know German, needed a Latin translation. And that was provided by Ottmar Nachtgall. In Latin, he is called Ottmar Licinius, and he translated the book into Latin. And here you see in Latin letters F, G, A, B and H, H and B, H and B. So both letters, because he as well has to explain the German organ tablature where the H is established. From there, that H reached at least all German-speaking countries and countries that used probably that tablature. And the H was introduced as one of the two versions of a B. So even if they said H, they knew it was B. As I said, the German organ tablature fell out of use at the end of the 18th century. And just in that time, a very illuminated man, Joseph Franz Schwanenberg, wrote a treatise on the uselessness and inappropriateness of the H in the musical alphabet. So finally, someone in Germany understood that that is all
absoluter Bullshit ist das.
And this Schwanenberg proposes instead the nomination and the mechanics in nominating notes as it is used in Holland, in the Netherlands, in Dutch. Because they call the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The higher version is added with an is, as in German. This is the sharp, and with an es, which is the flat. Schwanenberg proposed that this system should be adopted in Germany too. Anyway, he was a visionary man because he knew that he had to dedicate it to the German musical offspring by a friend of the art of composing, of the art of sound. As the current generation very unlikely will leave the age they already are used to. Well, already is an euphemism because actually the age entered music in 1400 something. So it's already 300 years in use. So it's not really new that someone invented the age. There were other consequences for the German technical musical language, because bemolle e bedurum is still in life in music theory, because we nowadays call Dur major as a key and Moll minor as a key. We could not do this if there was still the hard and the soft, the Moll and the Dur version of the B. So the H actually liberated the Bs in that two versions, and the terms Moll and Dur were able to be used for another thing, which is actually minor and major. And that only happens in German because the Latin-speaking countries have minore e maggiore, as the English-speaking countries have major and minor. Dur and Moll is just a German thing, or a thing of the languages that use the H as a musical letter. Another reason why we don't change it, Ha is, well, a proper name of a note, and it's getting a proper name of music. If we talk about the H-Moll-Messe, we all know immediately it's Johann Sebastian Bach, the B minor Mass. We don't have to talk about the composer. It's just a key, one of 24. But anyway, we know immediately which piece is meant. So, a proper name, it's hard to change. Well, actually, you could change Gulf of America, Gulf of France, Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of Timbuktu. Choose any name you like. You can do so. Germans chose H for the higher B. By the way, you don't actually can change names just because it would be correct. Do you know who Johann Goldmund Mozart is? Well, this is not the brother of Wolfgang Amadeus. It's two of his forenames. So he could have been called Johann Goldmund because he had four forenames, and Wolfgang Amadeus is the version of Wolfgangus Theophilus. And that's actually what has been written in his baptism certificate. So using the correct names doesn't mean that you know who is meant, because Johann Goldmund, you will never immediately reach to the one who wrote the Magic Flute. Well, it's clear that the H after the A and before the C is not really logical in an alphabetical order. But actually, do we use the notes only in alphabetical order when it really comes to music? Because this is just one scale, the A minor scale. But when we have melodies, we jump around all those notes in an order that is chosen by the composer or by anyone, but it's not always the same way. Then going the alphabet backwards we are not used to that. Only in music we are. So actually the order of the notes is only in theory and in a system ABC. In music, actually, it's going around as you like it. So if you have the solfege as a singing system, for example, you just jump around those syllables as the music commands, and non an alphabetical or some logical order. So what is really the problem with that H? It's only a systematic problem in easily learning it. And if we would correct everything which is an evident error, certain things in art would never have happened. Look at this. The Pisa Tower had begun to be built in 1173. And 12 years after they began to build it, they had completed 3 stories, and they get aware that the tower is going to lean. It's already tilt. So they had to decide what to do. This one will never be straight. It will be a tilt tower. And they continue to build it, changing the construction. Look on the lantern, the highest part, which is leaning to the other side, just to keep the balance of the tower. So they continue to do that. In architecture in Italy, you will find this very often, that there are things that are not really symmetric. So to the beauty, that's an error. That can't be. They didn't tear it down, and actually would have missed a very, very interesting... Well, it's a beautiful tower even if it would have been straight. But tilt, it's much more interesting. And you know how many people are going there. Probably you were there. If you're not, go there. It's so beautiful. So we don't have to eliminate everything that doesn't stand in a system just because we know that ABC is correct and AHC can't be correct. Well, it is in German. Last thing. Should we reform the note names in German to an international nomenclature? Well, what is international? In this case, it would be English. English is the international communication code. I use it, and not too well, actually. Anyway, I use it to make my videos. And you have to accept that I do errors in here. But internationally would mean all the world. But the world is divided in those who name notes alphabetically and those who use the system of Guido d'Arezzo, do, re, mi, fa, sol. And then there are other countries that use numbers. In India, the syllables are different. So there are a lot of international ways of nominating those. It's enough to know what we are talking about. So if I say ABC, I'm talking English. If I'm saying AHC, I'm talking German. And both makes perfectly sense. So there's no problem, actually. Well, I can understand if you only do metal music and rock music that it's not too important what happened in the history of music. But think of all those books that have been written on music theory in German using the H. We would have to rewrite all of them or explain in all modern books that the H is a B and the B is the B flat. And we had to do that in German. And as long as we talk German, we don't have to do this. So why change? That's it. Okay, that is my video. I hope you liked it. If you do so, leave me a like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you're interested in guitar themes more than this age theme, just subscribe to the channel as well, because normally I'm talking about this. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye.